Bekkerud. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Who is Amber Bekkerud?
Who am I? I'm a paranormal investigator, a voice actress, and a producer of many things.
Excellent. What got you into the paranormal?
My entire childhood, I had always seen and heard and experienced weird things, and my dad was very like, "Yes, please tell me more. What are you seeing?" So he kind of fostered that, and just a lot of unexplained things that I couldn't come up with logical answers for.
What was your first experience that you can remember?
The first experience I ever remembered is seeing my aunt after she had passed away. I was about 4 years old, and I had her come into my room, and she leaned down and said, "Everything will be okay." And then she turned around, and I watched her walk out the door and down the 2 flights of stairs, and I followed her. And my dad saw me at the bottom of the stairs, and he's like, "It's 3 a.m. What are you doing here? Like, go back to bed." I was like,
Wow.
"Okay."
Now, out of all your experiences, because you've had a lot, what would you say? This is a basic question I ask everyone because it's cliche to our job or our hobby. What's the scariest experience you've ever had?
Ooh, the scariest experience I've ever had. Um, I think the scariest experience I've ever had was I used to clean businesses for a janitorial company. And we were downstairs cleaning the basement of an old newspaper building, and I don't know what it was, but you know the things in Pan's Labyrinth when they're like upside down, like their bodies are right way up but their arms are like inverted and they're like crawling on the floor. That's what I saw. And i've
Jesus.
never i've never run out of somewhere so fast in my life.
Wow. Looking back on it now, is it something you'd want to go investigate?
Yes, I think now, like that was like 8 years ago. So now I have a little bit more like I can stand up for myself. I'm not gonna run out of here mentality. So I think it would be cool to see what it is.
One thing I appreciate that you do, because I'm very similar with this, is you like history. The locations you go to, you go about the history, not just a scare. That brings us to Night Shift. Tell us about your YouTube series. I think it's awesome. I've watched all of your episodes on there.
Yay! I'm excited because I want to do more. But they are very historically driven. It's it's so important to me because I think history can explain a lot of the things that people are seeing and experiencing in the places that they go to. So um it's especially the stances that I've had, like there aren't necessarily demons out there, but there are people who are angry. You go to asylums, every asylum in the country is not haunted by a demon. It's people who are angry because they are
100%.
there in the first place, right? So I think history is so important to what we do as paranormal investigators, which is why I started doing the night shift and trying to show the history of things and explain why these things might be happening.
Cool. Tell us about actually the one I really liked. I actually watched the other day was the Masonic Lodge one.
Oh, that's my favorite too.
Yeah. If anyone who watches this, go to Night Shift and watch the Masonic Lodge episode. It's good.
It's a lot.
Um, you bring up demons. How do you articulate a demon versus an angry person to a person that is adamant that it's a demon, that the devil is in their house?
Um, I think it's hard to get people out of that mindset once they're in it. Like once people are in that mindset that like, nope, this is a demon, it's the devil, it's something super horrible. It's hard to get them out of that mindset that like it might be your mental health causing what's going on. It might be just an angry person who is around and you're not paying attention enough to them, so they're going to do what they can to make you pay attention. Of course, I'm not saying there aren't demons, but I think they have a lot better things to do than terrorize some, person's house in the middle of downtown, wherever. Um, so it's a hard one. I've never had to really explain it to anybody and be like, no, what you're experiencing isn't a demon. Because I've just never encountered people. truly experiencing a demonic presence or an entity. Not to say that they aren't out there, because I've experienced it,
Who
but
do
I've
tell?
been like I've experienced that. I mean, the thing in the basement, whatever that was not human. I can tell you 100% that was not human. Um, but I've never had to help anybody else get through that. I've just had to get through it myself.
Oh, fair enough. Um, what makes a good investigation?
An open mind. Um, I 100% believe in everything that is, out there, and that there are things that we can't explain, but to go into an investigation being optimistic, and not expecting to get something, not expecting that you are going to experience things is so important, because I mean, I'm sure you can attest, 9 times out of 10, we don't get anything.
Truth.
Um, like it's there's not that guarantee that you are going to walk into a place, it is going to be active. Even if you've been to it 30 times before and it was active then, you could walk in one day and they're just like, I'm good. So you
True.
just have to be optimistic and keep an open mind.
Do you think going to locations over and over again makes it tiresome on the spirits and they go silent?
I think so. Especially if you're somebody who is very I don't want to say pushy, but or like a bully, but like somebody who is very like energetically overpowering about being in that space in the first place. Um, that's gonna drain them too. So I think it does. I think they do get tired after a while. I try to, if there are places I like to go, I try to space out how many times I'm going there, so that there is rest and time in between.
Yeah,
Just so they don't get sick of me.
100% agree with that for me too. Um, every investigator has a kryptonite of a location they've investigated that they're like, there's no way in hell I'm going back. Um, besides your experience you were talking about when you were cleaning, just a location you've investigated where maybe something followed you, attached to you, or came a little too close to getting in your bubble, so to speak. What would yours be?
There is a lake back in the Yukon that I 100% refuse to go back to. The Yukon's history isn't necessarily so far back in terms of the settler age of things, but it's got a lot of First Nations history, and I don't know what is out there. I don't want to know what is out there. I will not be there after sunset. You cannot pay me to go back there after sunset. I do not want anything to do with it at all.
What happened?
um uh, the one time that we were out there closer to sunset, we had a lot of weird noises. We had something hit the side of the car. I saw visions of like a shaman type person with the skull, oh, like a deer skull with the antlers over
Wow.
their head standing on the side of the road. And yep. And I kept seeing them. So as we were driving away, I kept seeing this person pop up on the sides of the road until we were far enough away, and then I didn't see them again. But like I've never ripped out of somewhere so fast in a car in my life, because it was just like, nope, I get it, we're gone. Like, you don't want us here, we're not gonna stay.
I normally don't go into folklore, like on Space Radio. I do sometimes with Dave, but could that be something like the Wendigo?
Potentially, and there's, or whatever they want to call it. As you know, there's like different names for the same thing depending on where you are across the country, right? But it could have very well been. That was what came to my mind. Um, I just know whatever it was, it did not want me there, and I respected that.
That would be too much.
Yeah.
Um, do you protect yourself going into investigations? Like, what's your process?
Usually we sage before we leave the house. Um, and we grow our own every year so that we have like a stockpile throughout the year. So we're not,
Smart.
burning down the white sage uh, stock around the world. Um, and we usually have crystals in the car. We usually have obsidian, quartz. So we take something with us in our pockets when we go,
Nice.
just to be safe.
My go-to is fire agate and black onyx.
Ooh, those are good ones.
But I find with the fire agate, um, you don't get much action per se. I guess
Yeah,
with the paranormal.
it protects you
Um,
too much.
yeah. um, yeah. No, I believe in protection. I do the saging as well. Where I live, I can drive 2 hours into a place called Cache Creek and go pick a bunch of wild sage. So,
Oh, yeah.
so
See, I miss
I
that
do
about
that.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had an attachment?
Many. Some of them not bad. And some of them I have welcomed back home. If there's something that I found particularly stuck in an area that doesn't want to be there anymore, I have welcomed it back with me so that it could move on. So nothing's particularly stayed long. Um, but I've definitely had some things try and come home and you don't notice until like one day something falls off the shelf that's not normal or something gets thrown at you or things will like kind of build up and then I'm like, I should sage the house. Okay, bye.
Have you ever found that saging or doing any sort of ritual that you believe in doesn't get rid of it?
I've found that sometimes I've had to do more. A lot of the time we can get away with just saging the house and just saying like, "Hey, you're not welcome here. Move on." But there was a little while when we lived back in the Yukon where we actually had to have a crystal grid set up every day for months and months and months and months on top of saging like every week, just because something was there and it just wouldn't leave. And eventually we were finally like, look, like enough is enough. Like we are not putting up with this anymore. You cannot be here. Um, and the crystal in the middle of our grid broke in half. So whatever it
Wow.
was finally left and we didn't need to have it up anymore. So we were able to take it down. But that it was 5 or 6 months of a good like every day.
What advice do you give new people coming into the investigative scene since it's very popular now?
It's very popular.
Saturated.
Very. And hard because there's so many people who overreact and overact, which makes it harder for those of us who don't do that. um, I think my only advice would be don't go alone. As much as we love a single investigator going out on their own, don't go alone. Um, and just be aware of your surroundings. And it kind of ties back into just be optimistic, and be open minded about what's going on because I've done investigations outside and inside, and think about what animals might be around you. What could potentially be there that's making noise? Is the house old? Is it settling? Is there, like you just have to, you can't just go in being like, I'm going to this haunted place and it is definitely haunted and everything I experienced is haunted.
Demons. Yep. Totally. I ask this question to everyone as well. Some may say it's repetitive, but I don't. Gear. A lot of new investigators are. I even ask people what they use because I always like to learn. For new people coming in, what do you think are the best tools? Because for me, I've spent. I'm gonna tell you how much money I've spent on crap that that that's still in my closet or I resell. Not all crap, but stuff I don't use.
Yeah.
For me, it's basically an audio recorder, an EDI Plus, and a camcorder. That's about all I use now. What
Yeah.
would you
And
say?
I'm right there with you. I think the most that we use in our investigations is the camcorder and what audio it gets. We bring my old iPhone because it's not attached to, like, it doesn't have a SIM card, it doesn't have internet access, and we use that as our like EVP recorder. So we'll just set it up somewhere and leave it. Um, and we have usually now we have a tarot card deck and pendulum, but
Okay.
that's all we go in with. I want to get dowsing rods, but I think for me the biggest thing is not taking a lot of electronic things in, because I want the most natural response possible. That's my preference. I've always wanted to use EVP recorders and like have more, have the grids and do all the things, but I don't have that kind of money.
No, but I appreciate that answer. You've given the most natural answer out of anyone I've asked, that you like to keep the electronics out and do tarot cards is more, people would say, more of like a ritualistic or
Yep.
in tune way of investigating and things like that. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I prefer energy work,
mhm.
which is just me. I do have a um EMF detector now, so that one does come with us. But that's about it.
Okay. Um, in your opinion, what is the most audible type of evidence?
Ooh.
Like for me, like the Obulist or like the phone apps that like have the blips and the ghost radar. From my opinion, I don't use that as audible evidence to present to a client.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that either. Again, it's one of those things like you don't know if it just has a built-in library. I know some apps have like the built-in library and then they have a GPS locator. So if they notice that like, ooh, you're in the site of an old hospital, it's just going to spew out words that would work with a hospital setting or those kinds of things. I think if it's like audio evidence on your camcorder or your EVP recorder that you 100% cannot account for, if it doesn't sound like anybody on your team, if it is whispered into the camera versus like far away, those things are more things that I would present to a client versus, oh yeah, see, these are the 20 responses we got on our little app
Mm-hmm.
that tells you, what's what. Because you can take so much out of all of those words and build a story off of them that might not necessarily be true, um, if you don't do the history and the research and actually look into that area.
I agree. Give me one of your best ghost stories that you've experienced. Top tier story.
Hmm. One of the best ghost stories I've ever experienced. Um, I think one of my biggest ones that really like resonates with me still, um, is the multiple experiences I've had with the Shadow Man, um, and just that whole scenario. I saw him for about a year and a half straight, when I was in high school,
Wow.
and he every single night, he would be in the corner of my bedroom, standing there watching me. It did not matter. I slept with lights on. I could still see him. Um, and it just kept going and going and going. And I could never understand why, because he doesn't talk. He just stood there. Um, and it was very unsettling after a while. Like I used to actually, I mean, back when I was younger and I could do this anyway, but I would stay up playing Call of Duty until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning just because I didn't want to sleep alone. Because he made me so uncomfortable.
Wow.
Um, and then I ended up leaving a fairly mentally abusive relationship that I was in not too long after, and then I stopped seeing him. So I don't know if there was a correlation between that, if he was trying to be like, hey, this isn't good. He shouldn't be like this. Um, but then I didn't see him again for 10-ish years. Um, and then I saw him again for 2 days, right before I started my YouTube channel in 2018.
Oh, wow.
And I saw him for 2 days. And because we've done a lot of work around our house to kind of have a protection bubble around it, um, he was in my neighbor's yard. So he couldn't come past the fence line, but he just kept staring at me. And I finally stood on the steps outside my house one night and I was like, what do you want? Like, you haven't bothered me for years. What do you want? And I went to sleep that night and I woke up the next morning and I was like, you know what? I'm starting my YouTube channel. And here we are.
Wow. Here we are. Now, what do you think the Shadow Man is?
I don't know. You know, I think there's so many um explanations about what he could be. Some people think he's an omen of bad things. Some people think that he shows up in high stress periods. Um some people think he's a protector. So, and you know what? It could vary. It could
Hmm.
vary depending on what your situation is and what you're going through at the time. You know, for me, he disappeared after I got out of an abusive relationship. Um, and then he reappeared when I was in a very high stress period in my life and I didn't know really what I was going to do. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to say yes to doing my YouTube channel. And that has paid off really well for me. So, for me at least, as uncomfortable as he made me, I think that was the point.
Did you ever suffer from sleep paralysis from it, or was it just the looming figure in the in the corner?
um I did a couple of nights, and that was terrifying. That's honestly like the worst experiences I've ever had, is knowing that you're asleep but you're awake but you're not, and then you can't move and you can't do anything. um and I had nightmares for ages
Wow.
through that period of time. I was not sleeping well. I was not mentally all there because of the relationship I was in. I wasn't mentally there because of what this thing was doing and causing. And it was a very interesting time of my life.
I've had that old hag thing a few times. I call it a thing
Yes.
because it's scary as hell.
Yeah.
Um, you kind of see like a witchy lady, old granny in the corner, and it comes. It's like a horror movie. It comes up really close to you, and then you kind of I don't like it. So
Yeah, and see
I don't like
hag,
it.
the
Yeah.
old hag is something that here in Newfoundland is really popular. And I mean popular because she's experienced a lot here.
Hmm.
Um, so it's interesting that you've had experiences with her, because
Yeah.
that's something like people don't really talk about the shadow man here. It's the old hag.
Now I wonder if they're well, related, I guess, or same sort of thing. Maybe just one is more powerful than the other. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Those are,
hard to say, but either way, I don't like either of them. Like
no, go
people
away.
tell me their old hag stories, and I'm like, no, I don't know.
But like sometimes still, like I see it kind of. What's the way to explain it? She doesn't stand in the corner. She's like at the
The top.
ceiling.
Yeah.
Yes, like going like don't
Yep.
like it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But then the investigative nature of me is like, why? Why does that happen? Who is it?
What do you want?
What do you?
Why are you doing this to me?
Don't touch me. Just talk to me.
Yeah.
But cool. Now you have something big coming up on May 17th of 2021. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I have my first official documentary coming out, which again is very much rooted in history. But it's called Spirits of the Rock, A Pirate's Paradise. And in it, I kind of explore Newfoundland's pirate culture and pirate history. Um, and I touch base on 5 different pirates that were very popular and kind of relevant to the Newfoundland area. But I also have like a 45-minute investigation thrown in there that I did on the
Okay.
300-year anniversary.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
What is a highlight we can look forward to? But don't tell us too much.
A highlight that you can look forward to. Um, Probably. Oh, I mean, aside from the stunning scenery through the entire thing, I think the highlight is probably watching me hightail it off camera. And that's all I'm gonna say.
That'll work. I like that. Um, what do you got coming up besides that in 2021? Any other ventures?
A lot.
Yeah.
2021, after a long, sad break in 2020, which I think we all took,
Yep.
2021 is going to be busy. I've got at least 3 more documentaries coming out. And I'm also working on a new series for Spaced Out Radio. So that's going to be another 13 episode kind of chunk at the end of the summer. Um, yeah, a lot of filming.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, that concludes our interview for today.
Yay!
And thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was very exciting. I'm good. Wow. I'm happy to see you again. It's been a long
Excellent. It has.
time.
You should jump on Spaced Out Radio one night too
Yes.
on
Yes. I
Ghosts
will
of the
call
Great
you.
White North. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.